The first talk is by Father Akira Takayama. He is the chaplain to the youth ministry in the Diocese of Takamatsu, Japan. Father Takayama will speak for till 10:15, not just 15 minutes, a little more. Till 10:15 he will be speaking to us. Father Takayama.
Hello everyone, it's so great to see you all. I am Akira Takayama, a Japanese priest and belong to the Diocese of Takamatsu. I really appreciate this precious opportunity. I'll be happy to hear your comments and share your own experiences. This is the outline of today's presentation. 1. Topic of this presentation. 2. Perspective as pastor. 3. Background. Catholic Church in Japan. Pastoral care for the youth. 4. Body. Reflection on the voice of the youth and priests. 5. Conclusion. So, let's get started. Today I was given this topic by the FABC. Youth, a voice for the church. The situation of the youth in the church in Asia, and why it must be a concern for the future. But this topic is too broad to talk about, so I'm going to focus on the case in Japan. So, the goal of this presentation, reporting the situation of pastoral care for the youth in Japan, thinking together about the future of the Catholic Church in the region of Asia. So this is the thesis statement. Priests should have to put our minds to listening to the voices of the youth. Priests should be re-evangelized. Priests should have to do all of these things for the future of the Catholic Church. Priests are supposed to talk about the gospel almost every day, but we should keep on appreciating the essential message of the gospel. This is a kind of re-evangelization. Perspective as a pastor. This is my perspective as a pastor. Passage in the text of the gospel. Luke 24:13 through 35. Jesus had kept on walking the path to Emmaus, together with 2 disciples, until they noticed Jesus' presence. Jesus' attitudes are totally inspirational to us. Henry Nouwen, on the text of the book of his work, Creative Ministry. Priests are challenged to be servants of life who can listen to the voices of nature, people, and God. Nouwen's message is quite important too. In order to carry out these tasks, priests should really be re-evangelized. Here I am going to show the background information for today's topic briefly. That is to say, about Japanese society and the Catholic Church in Japan. First, geography and demographics. 5 main islands. Total estimated area is 380,000 square kilometers. Japan's territory is vertically long and is almost as big as Vietnam. The population is 124,750,000 people. And the number of population in their 20s is 12,490,000. Statistics of the Catholic Church in Japan. And I am going to give you some information about the Catholic Church in Japan. The number of Catholics in Japan is 431,100 people. The percent of Catholic people out of the population is 0.3%. Yes, Catholics in Japan are a minority. And the Catholic Church in Japan consists of 16 dioceses. But actually, many foreigners are not officially counted. Recently, a lot of young people from Asian countries come to Japan as technical interns, and they're Catholics. Like the youth from Vietnam, Myanmar, etc., are enhancing the mood of the Catholic Church in Japan. This is a short summary of information about the Catholic Church in Japan. Next, I'm going to talk about pastoral care for the Catholic youth in Japan. Bishops' Conference in Japan does not have an official committee for the Ministry of Youth. This is one of the characteristics of the Catholic Church in Japan. So, there is a voluntary association of the Catholic Church youth, which is acknowledged by the bishops and promoting communication between the youth of various dioceses. This association mainly consists of Catholic youth, supported by some bishops and priests. And usually, each diocese has its own activities. One Catholic youth gathering, which is named Network Meeting, has been held in various places all around Japan, supported by this voluntary association. This is popular among the youth in Japan. At this event, many Catholic youth from various parts of Japan can get to know each other and share their faith. A network meeting was held in Takamatsu Diocese in 2016. Over 130 young people from various places in Japan gathered on that day. The other day, in order to prepare for this presentation, some priests of various dioceses gathered on Zoom and discussed the pastoral care for the youth. And we reached a finding for some specific reality and challenges. First, the differences between the youth who were baptized as in infancies and the youth who were baptized at the age of adults. The youth who were baptized as infants tend to think of the Catholic Church as a place to hang out with friends. On the contrary, the youth who were baptized at the age of adults tend to prefer praying and learning at the church to hanging out there. Almost all the priests in Japan are considering this and always trying very hard to unite the youth. And second, lack in the number of priests. All the priests have to be in charge of parishes, pastoral care for the youth, and some other responsibilities at the same time. So the priests are working so hard to find time for the youth because the youth are our future. Plus, just like other countries, the Catholic Church in Japan has to deal with the influence of COVID-19. The number of attendances at every Mass has declined, and some youth have left the Catholic Church. But still, some activities on the internet have started. Priests and lay people are working together in order to overcome the difficulties under this pandemic. Now I'm going to report the voices of the youth and priest reflection on the gathering of the workshop for the priests in the ecclesiastical province of Osaka in 2019. This is the main part of this presentation. This gathering was entitled Listening to the Voices of the Youth. 10 Catholic youths were invited to talk about the Catholic Church before the priests. All of them were speaking so honestly. The priests were reflecting on it and sharing ideas. I am going to show you some examples. We do not want the priests to be worried too much about the generation gap. We do not want the priests to quarrel and degrade each other in front of us, young people. I do not think the priests are always acting like this, but still we should be thoughtful. It is quite natural that we notice a generation gap, but the youth don't want the priests to be worried about the gap. We did not want the older parishioners to just consider us to be industrious and ideal workers for the parish activities. I guess this might be one of the characteristics in Japan. As I already mentioned, Catholics are a minority in Japan. If some young people come to the church, older people are so happy to see them. Besides, older people tend to ask the youth to help with church activities. And then the youth are told to do some tasks every Sunday, and they feel exhausted. So the youth think, we help the older people at the parish who will track our growth with kindness. I think the parish community should not try to set the youth group under too much control. Needless to say, we should not spoil them by giving in to their demands. We should think a great deal of their voluntary activities. Actually, they said, we are communicating on the internet, even between different dioceses. And they said, we want to hear sermons which can offer spiritual insights. This is really important. Priests should become not only their friends, but also their life guides. And they said, We need the third place, which is different from home, school, and working place. The third place is a kind of pedagogical or sociological term. Generally speaking, human life is somehow based on a person's place. Home is the first place, and school or working place is the second place. The youth needs a third place, which can encourage them to rebuild different relations. One young person on the gathering strongly insisted on the need to make the church the third place. He had the experience of temporarily leaving school because of personal problem, and he is supporting the kids who have the same situation as him. After listening to these voices, the priest reflecting on them and had time to share ideas. We should not be worried too much about generational gaps. Young people just hope that priests will become spiritual companions with them and the church itself will become the third place. We should just support young people's voluntary activities. Sometimes we feel like making comments or advising them, but should sometimes wait for their own decision making. And we should encourage them,
15.
not
15.
judging the results. We should cooperate with each other
15.
beyond the bounds of the diocese. Just like the youth, we should cooperate with each other beyond the bounds of the diocese. We should do our best to make the church the third place. For the youth, yes, we should care about the order and tradition of the church, but also we have to offer it to the people, and we should notice our error. We should reflect on the fact that the church in Japan has been directing the youth to the traditional way of the church. We should care about the tradition and adjust them to the present situation at the same time. We should accompany and answer the questions of the youth with patience in order to help them to discern their own lives. The international youth want to overcome language barrier. In my diocese, international youth gatherings have been held. In order to achieve these goals, we should be re-evangelized. This is our main response for the voices. In conclusion, I'm going to show some words. Listen, offering a place, cooperation, re-evangelization. As priests, we should have to accompany the youth and put our minds to their voices. As priests, we should be there to encourage them to think and act voluntarily by offering the Catholic Church as a third place. We must be re-evangelized and cooperate with each other in order to practice these goals. As priests, we must sincerely reflect on the reality and the challenges shown before us. Otherwise, the Catholic Church in Japan will be in decline. But we should not think about the future too negatively or at the same time too optimistically. We should altogether restart from appreciating Jesus' message and Jesus' sacraments. Thank you for your attention. God bless you all.